Gary Franchi, Chief White House Correspondent for the Next News Network. I'm actually on the ground in Canada at one of the drill sites, one of the exploratory drill sites that's producing some serious results. Now, if you've been tracking any of the reporting that we've been doing, you know President Trump has just initiated what he's calling Project Vault. Now, this is an unprecedented, first of its kind, historic critical minerals vault.
For years, American businesses have risked running out of critical minerals during market disruptions. Today, we're launching what will be known as Project Vault. Over the past year, my administration has taken extraordinary steps to make sure the United States has all of the critical minerals and rare earths that we need. The permitting of mines and signing major critical mineral deals with countries from all over the world, and we're getting along with all of them.
Right now, we're in Canada. We're with the Vizsla Copper Corporation as they are exploring this specific region. We are in the chopper and we are about to hit the Thera drill site and see the action. I'm taking you with me, guys. Let's go. All right, guys, we are in the helicopter. I don't know if you can hear me. We are on our way to the drill site. Going about 200 kilometers an hour, about 1,500 feet up. And beautiful day, beautiful day. Here we are. We're at the Poplar Project, Vizsla Copper. Helicopter is down on the ground. And we are ready to rock. Changing the bits, yeah. Cool.
Right, well it's minus 20 degrees here. We're at the Thera porphyry discovery. We're on our second drill program. We're on our second drill hole. We're going down to about 500 to 600 metres on this drill hole to test the depth extent and also test some extensional extent to what is shaping up to be a very, very big porphyry copper system. Guys are working here over the winter. We'll have a little break during the breakup and then be back out here in summer drilling more holes. We've got two rigs, one here at Thera, the other one is over at Camp Lake, drilling a target we've got there that could well be another porphyry discovery. And then later on here we'll go and look at some of our other targets, including Copper Pond, which is an exciting looking target as well. But this area, you know, is now going to be known for having a large porphyry copper system. We've already got our Poplar deposit, which was discovered back in the 70s, about 3 kilometres to the north of us. There's a lot of porphyry mineralisation around here, a huge amount of copper in the ground under our feet right now.
Now they have another site in Alaska. Now, the Alaska site was just endorsed by the Alaska governor. These locations are no doubt going to play a serious role in the administration's efforts to shore up critical minerals so we can no longer be blackmailed if we want to have stronger tariffs or agreements with other nations.
We're planning to sign new critical minerals frameworks with several partners later today. And I want to just highlight again, this is really a historic gathering and highlights the billions of dollars the United States government has already committed towards this endeavor. And that's going to enable private sector investment towards creating reliable supply chains that are vital, as I said, to technological innovation, economic strength, and ultranational security.
As you know, China and Russia, they control a huge amount of the critical minerals resources in the world. And just a couple of weeks ago, J.D. Vance, the Vice President, Secretary of State Mark Rubio, they brought 50 nations together so that they could create a critical minerals trading bloc to break the hegemony of China and Russia's control. A massive, massive blind spot that has now been exposed after administration after administration after administration refused to address the issue. President Trump, with his leadership and his insight and his business sense, understood and tasked Marco Rubio and J.D. Vance with bringing this all together. And of course, now we have Project Vault. So what you're seeing here is truly an unprecedented moment in American history where finally we can break the stranglehold of the nations that would hold those minerals from us. See, we need those minerals for our defense, for the Department of Defense, for the Department of War, I should say. Pete Hegseth needs those for the F-35, for the spies, for the spy satellites, all the things that keep our nation safe and make us the greatest nation in the world, all rely on the stuff that is coming out of the ground right here.
I don't need to explain to anybody here that critical minerals are vital to the devices that we use every single day. They power our infrastructure, our industry, and our national defense, which is something that's not talked about enough, but it's a key part of that. And so our goal is to have a global market that's secure, a global supply that's enduring and is available to everyone, every nation, at an affordable price. That's a top priority for this administration.
Now, this is, I mean, it's negative 20 degrees. We're freezing out here, but we are literally on the front line of the critical minerals war that is taking place on the planet right now. It is raging on this planet. Most people never even knew it existed. But right now, we're here, we're on site, we're investigating. Yesterday we were at the core shack. They estimated that there could be just billions and billions of dollars worth of critical minerals under the ground. And with President Trump removing all the red tape and allowing for the licensing to go through quicker than it's ever been before, it accelerates the ability for these mining companies to get on the ground so that they can get the minerals so that we can be at the forefront, again, to not be beholden to China or Russia or any other nation that we are reliant upon for those critical minerals. So this is really a historic moment. We're on site. You can see the drilling operation that's going on behind me. They're going hundreds of feet into the ground. You saw the core samples that I presented to you yesterday in that report. And the veins of the precious metals, the coppers, all the things that are required to keep our nation running. And it's not just for the Defense Department or the defense industry. It's also the things that run these Chevrolets. I mean, this vehicle right here, this Chevy, has probably about 35 pounds of copper just in it alone. So when you put that into perspective, how many Chevys are on the street? And what would happen if all of a sudden we weren't able to get access to some of those minerals, right? And that is why companies like Vizsla Copper, they're at the forefront of the exploratory actions to get that copper out of the ground. But it's not just the copper here in Canada or the copper that's in Alaska. There are drill sites that are all over the world that are run by this company. This is not just some small fry company, some fly-by-night. We're here in the dead of winter in the Canadian wilderness. And let me explain something. There are companies that just take the winter off. They don't do the exploring in the winter. They don't do the hard work. Well, this company is out here because they recognize the value, and they recognize that the time is of the essence. There is no time to waste. That if we're going to be a part of the critical minerals initiative that President Trump has started, then there's no time for sleep. There's no time for rest. We have to move quickly so that we can get these minerals out of the ground, so we can get the national security initiative solid as a rock. So, I'm Gary Franchi. You're right here. You're with me on the ground. We are in the Canadian wilderness. We just took a helicopter in. We're standing on the ground where it's all being taken and extracted and analyzed and then produced for the American people.
We bought this project 2.5 years ago. We paid $2.7 million for it. You know, it was previously in a company 10 years ago that was worth about $100 million. So we figured it wasn't too bad value paying $2.7 million for a project that already had a significant resource. Utah Copper found the deposit called Poplar on the property back in the mid-70s. And explored it heavily, drilled out a large resource. The resource base is nearly 300 million tonnes at about 0.4% copper equivalent. There's a little bit of molybdenum in there, there's some silver in there. So we know we're in a porphyry terrain, and we're surrounded by, you know, some of the world's major porphyries. There's Gibraltar, Highland Valley to the south of us. You've got Mount Polly not too far away from here. Artemis, which is now I think a $15 billion company, has a major gold deposit called Blackwater, which one of my team members discovered many years ago, not too far over there. So we're in a good geological terrain, and that's what's important when it comes to doing good geology. You know, you need to go where the deposits are, where that endowment is, where the rocks are right. And so we know we're in a porphyry copper terrain. There's also epithermal gold deposits, so you're a chance of finding a high-grade epithermal deposit around these things as well. But what we're looking for here are very large copper deposits that can really move the needle for the planet in terms of copper production. And it looks like we might be onto one of those. We've driven up this valley. We're about 5 kilometres away from both of those rigs that we've seen this morning. The first rig's testing our Camp Lake target, about 3 kilometres that direction. The Thera discovery that we've made, confirmed big porphyry copper deposit, is 5 kilometres that way. But I've got my suspicions, and I think our other geologists do too, is that this valley is full of porphyry apophyses, as we call them, smaller intrusions that focus that mineralisation. And where we're sitting right now is, as far as we've discovered, the southwesternmost extent of the mineralisation. This is a little area called Copper Pond. There's evidence of, you know, ancient workings of digging up copper mineralisation, and we'll get out and have a look around here. But there's some copper stained rocks. You'll see highly altered rocks that are typically associated with porphyry copper deposits. So when we first hit the ground here on this project back in May last year, this got us very excited because it confirmed there's porphyritic rocks, there's all of the alteration you see, there's copper in those rocks, and you see the copper staining on rocks in this area, and there's great extent to it. You know, we're now at the westernmost margin of this alteration zone and big magnetic anomaly. That anomaly goes for another 7-8 miles that direction. There could be, and you know, we've now discovered 2 deposits. Looks like we could be onto another discovery. So we know this is a super fertile area, and there could be many more of these deposits studded along that anomalism, along that 10-kilometre strike in the direction we're looking near. So it's a very exciting project in that sense, and I think what this drill program is telling us is that this is a very, very large system. This could be, you know, one of the more significant porphyry systems that have been discovered in British Columbia in recent years, and something that's going to attract investment from not only ourselves and fund managers and guys who get behind and invest in our sector, but it's also potentially going to be very attractive to much larger companies who want to build very, very large copper mines. So I'm thrilled with what we've seen this morning. We've got plenty more to see. We'll get out and kick some rocks here and see if we can't find some porphyritic looking and altered rocks and some copper mineralisation on those rocks. So we've come from the Thera discovery, which is about 5 kilometres that way. We've of course got our Camp Lake target up there, which we're testing at the moment. That's looking exciting. To me though, this is the most exciting target we've got on the property at the moment. You've got outcropping porphyritic related alteration. You've got a lot of iron staining there. If you look at the rocks, it's full of quartz, full of pyrite and sericite, so QSP, which is what you want to see. A little bit hard to see with the snow here, but even here you can see some malachite and copper exposed in that rock. So we know it's a porphyry system and it's mineralised with copper. It's an outstanding target. We've got to get and drill test this, and that's what we'll be doing in the next couple of weeks when we finish testing these other targets we've got over there. I think it's an outstanding chance of a discovery. It's one of the best porphyry targets I've seen in a long time. Hoping to get you a nice bit of copper, but it's all covered with snow. So you can see there, very orangey brown looking rock. A lot of iron oxide after sulfide, and then you crack off a fresh piece. You can see all of that quartz sericite in there, that's sparkling. So that's an alteration product from around the porphyry system. A lot of this orange stuff, iron oxide, is oxide after sulfide in that system. So, you know, we're on the edge of something here pretty special. It's an interesting game. You know, firstly you've got to work out what you're exploring for, and there's a few things that I use that I learned at Rio Tinto to rank and prioritise targets and figure out where you're going. You know, one of them is size of the prize, the other is cost of the test, and then chance of success. I'll explain that a little bit. So when you go exploring for anything, and you can use this in all elements of your life, particularly in business for assessing opportunities, but the size of the prize, is this going to be big enough that it's going to make a difference to my shareholders and give them a really good rate of return? Porphyry copper systems, you know, they're the biggest copper suppliers, producer deposits on the planet. So we know, you know, that's what you want to be looking for if you're looking for copper deposits of great scale. So this ticks the box on that front. Cost of the test. You know, exploration is an incredibly expensive game. These holes we're drilling here at about $150,000 per hole. You know, we're probably over the time of the project to prove up the resource that we want to see. It's going to be 100 to 200 holes. So you can do the math on that. You know, $50 to $100 million worth of drilling to prove up one of these sorts of projects. And then you've got to do all the studies. Here, the cost of the test is outstanding. We've got great road access. We're an hour away from the town of Houston and the main north-south highway in British Columbia. The main road that runs from Houston and that highway and the train line goes all the way down this valley here to Imperial's Huckleberry mine. So we've got a major road that's only 5 kilometres away from where we're at now, and of course we've got these beautiful logging trails that you see here. This area's been heavily logged, burnt out by fire 5 years ago, and that gives us great exposure. You can see all of this outcrop very well, so it makes our geologist's job so much better to go and look at that. And then drilling costs here in British Columbia are very favourable. It's costing us about $320 per metre all in the test. So it ticks that box. This is, you know, low cost, best bang for your buck exploration as you can possibly get today for these sorts of systems. So that's great. And then we've got that in spades here. And then finally, the last thing is chance of success. That's about the endowment, mineral endowment of an area. If you're going to look for uranium deposits, high-grade uranium deposits, you do it in Saskatchewan's Athabasca Basin, because that's where the biggest and the best and the greatest chance of success is. If you're going to look for porphyry copper deposits, you know, there are a lot of places you can go in the world. Of course, the belt we sit on now extends all the way from northern Alaska all the way down to Punta Arenas in South America and off the coast there of Antarctica. You know, it's the most prolific porphyry belt on the planet, and here in British Columbia we're blessed with a huge number of those porphyries. Now, some of them are a little bit lower grade than what you see in Chile, but today at 0.4% copper equivalent, you know, that's a very good grade. The global mined head grade of copper around the world today is about 0.5% copper, so you're up at those sorts of levels. And you know, chance of success, the endowment of the area, we know we're in a porphyry district. We're surrounded by some of Canada's biggest porphyry systems. You've got Imperial Metals, Huckleberry mine just down the road here. Surge Copper have their giant Berget deposit just here. Artemis Gold, their Blackwater deposits only a few kilometres away in that direction. You've got some major mines and porphyry copper mines. Mount Polly, Imperial's Mount Polly down the road. So we're in a district that's known for porphyry mineralisation. There's a lot of it here, and we've proven that up. We knew that this district was fantastic when we bought it for $2.7 million 2 years ago, because it already had a big proven resource that was discovered by Utah Copper back in the 70s, and that was drilled out. But not much other exploration work had been done to that time. So you can imagine the excitement when we got down here, when we bought the project, to get in this area where you've got outcropping porphyry style rocks, outcropping porphyry mineralisation that suggests you're at the top of a porphyry system, and then all of this copper mineralisation in these rocks outcropping around here suggested to us that this is going to be a great place to explore, and certainly that's playing out. We've made that Thera discovery. We're now testing our Camp Lake target. We've seen some rocks on that yesterday. We don't have any assays, but gee, that looks like a porphyry system to me, so I'm excited about this. And then I can't wait in the next few weeks to get a drill rig in this area and start testing this copper pond target. It's the most, you know, certainly at ground level, we've seen a large amount of copper staining on these rocks around here, so we think it's a fertile porphyry copper system. So the whole exploration process is there. You've seen it play out, and we're now getting to the pointy end where we've done all of the initial boots on ground exploration work, all of that sampling, all of the mapping, geophysics, soil sampling, and now we're drill testing and we're hitting great success. You see that in those cores that we've been seeing over the last couple of days. We're on to what I think could be a very, very big porphyry system. This alteration goes for another 8 kilometres that direction. There's a huge number of targets in there as well. I think this could be a very, very large porphyry system. Huge amount of work to do to get there and to know that, and a lot of drilling. We're at the earliest stages of that, but gee, I'm excited by what I see. I think that this could well be a billion-tonne plus district that we have here that we're discovering at the moment.
Yeah, this will be very low grade. It's way outside the centre of the potassic core of the porphyry system that carries the grade. So this will have copper in it. This will have, but a very small amount. And, you know, at a guess, it might be, you know, below 0.1% copper, but there'll be some in there. But it's the important thing is that alteration and that style of, you know, that porphyritic rock suggests clearly that you're in a porphyry system, and drilling is now proving that.
So we're over the Huckleberry pit right now. Coming up on it. Look at that. This is remarkable. This is the Huckleberry mine. You're seeing it here. We're headed back to the Houston port. Touchdown. As you saw, we had some beautiful footage of the Huckleberry mine. We went to the different drill sites Vizsla Copper has on the ground. And what was especially intriguing was reviewing the Copper Pond area, where literally like the copper is just sitting on the surface, just waiting to be harvested. What these guys are sitting on here is nothing short of a miracle, value, resource rich and ready for harvest, my friends. Ready to take back the North American resources so we can protect this country. on the ground. What an adventure this has been. And I am just honored to be here to see it all with the crew of Vizsla Copper. We got great YouTubers here with us, making news, making history, waking up people to what's happening, how this is going to change the game.